In this video, I'm going to show you how you clean out the FED3 if it's becoming jammed. So first I'm going to show you how FED3 dispenses. So if we trigger a dispense, FED3 will try 10 times to dispense a pellet. What it's doing is it's moving the motor and it's sensing down here in the pellet well and looking for that pellet to be delivered. If no pellet comes down after 10 tries, it's going to enter a jam clearing mode. So you see it sort of starts moving back and forth, and this is an attempt to dislodge any pellets that just might just not be falling. And it'll say jam clearing or clearing jam on the screen. So that's what FED3 will try to do to dispense pellets. And if you look in your data file, you'll see a column called motor turns that should be ones and twos, kind of 1 or 2 tries to dispense a pellet. If you see a lot of 10, 20, 40 up there, it means that your FED device is having trouble dispensing and it's taking many attempts before it's able to actually drop a pellet. So let's see what to do about that. I have here, I'm just going to stop this. I have here a couple tools. I have this 1.5 millimeter hex wrench. I have a 2.5 millimeter hex wrench and a 7 millimeter wrench. So the places where FED can get jammed are either the pellets can fill up in the chute. If for some reason it doesn't come down here and pellets start to back up, that's pretty fatal. Fortunately, that's sort of rare, but we'll talk through that. In that case, you'll just want to clear out all the pellets as best you can. Then use something like this air can and just blast in there, blast in here, and try to make sure you get any dust out of the device. What also can happen is if the disc itself is not really seated perfectly. So if you see I'm pushing on this, I have no play at all. If the disc itself isn't seated perfectly, pellets can creep, or crumbs of pellets can creep underneath these little holes, and then that can over time start to accumulate and stop the disc from moving and create a jam. So if that's the case, we're going to adjust the positioning of this disc. What we're going to do is use our 1.5 millimeter hex wrench to remove this little set screw. It's an M3 set screw if you need to find it. But this just comes right out, and we can see the pellet area. If you see dust down here, it means that dust is getting under your pellet disc. Again, we're going to clean that out. The compressed air works really well there. And then we're just going to reseat this. So I put it back in. I want to make sure it moves back and forth. I also, if I push on these two sides, I see there's just no play at all. It's very solid on there. So if you feel like it's wobbly and kind of going back and forth, you may want to look at the set screw or look at this disc or even replace the disc. And then I'm just going to tighten this up. And you want to watch when you're tightening it that you're not pushing down too hard such that you're kind of jamming the disc against the bottom and it can't turn that way. And you're also not leaving it loose where it's able to wobble back and forth. So now I'm testing it again. It feels very solid. I can kind of spin it around. And now let's just watch it. So if we watch it turning, we should see a really smooth turning without it getting caught or anything. And if it is getting caught, we have one more adjustment that's a little bit more involved, but we'll go for it. Go for that one now. So if you see that it's rubbing, let's say it's rubbing on this side, we can actually move the motor a little bit away from that side and just adjust it to get it moving smoothly. So to do that, we're going to open up this set screw again. This one's giving me a little bit of trouble. There it goes. Take this out, and then you'll see that the motor itself is held in by these two screws. If you take the covers off, those screws, you can access them with this 2.5 millimeter hex wrench, and we may need to use the 7 millimeter wrench to hold the nut on the other side. See if I can get a view of it. So I hold this nut on this side, and I can just loosen these up a bit. So I'll loosen that up, maybe a full turn. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other. Okay, that was a little bit harder to loosen that one up. And now what we've done is we've loosened the motor so that you can actually grab it, and you can see that I don't know if you can see, I'm able to wiggle it around in there now. So we have a little bit of play, and if I were sort of worried that it was rubbing, on this side, I'm just going to move the motor away from that side and reposition this. So I'll move the motor a little bit away, and then retighten these. And again, you probably need the wrench on this side while you're tightening them. That's one of them. And then we're going to put this back, reattach the disc, check that it's really solid on there again, and then let's take a look. What we're looking for here is a smooth movement, so no rubbing, no sort of stalling or getting caught. I'm going to let this one run out to until it starts its jam clear. So that looks pretty good. So you can just leave this sitting on the bench, let it go for a couple hours. I think it kind of can help burn it in, or maybe smooth out if there's any rough parts on the 3D print. But also it'll let you know if you come back after 2 hours and it's jammed. That'll tell you that something was rubbing, something wasn't really aligned perfectly. And then the last way that we'll actually test them before we use them with mice is we'll fill them with pellets. And you can either remove this nose piece and just sort of let it dispense on its own a few hundred pellets, or you can leave the nose piece on and just take tweezers. And it's a little bit tedious, but you just sit there and dispense 100, 200 pellets, just get an idea of whether it jams or not. In my experience, the FEDs that jam tend to do it kind of quickly, and the ones that are good, that go through a few hundred pellets, will be good. We've had some that we've run for months and months without a jam. The last thing I want to talk about is sort of the daily maintenance. So you have this in the cage with the animal, and what we'll do is just pick them up every day, kind of either bang them, make sure there's not dust accumulating in here, make sure that there isn't any jams, especially if it's their only food source, and then just physically, dispense a pellet, watch it, and make sure it dispenses smoothly. The air can is super helpful there as well. You can always just kind of go in and give it a little bit of a clean out, and just make sure that dust doesn't accumulate. So I hope that helps, sort of the jam clearing and maintenance of FED3.